St. Louis Post-Dispatch columnist. He's a KTRS contributor every Tuesday and Thursday here at the Big 550 KTRS. Good morning, Tony Messenger.
Good morning, McGraw. Good morning, Kelly.
Hi, Tony.
I want to talk to you about your column that you wrote about Bob Dixon, who is a state senator from Springfield, Missouri, who was somewhat critical of Governor Nixon in this whole public defender controversy. But one of the things which has sort of not been reported in all of this, and you sort of touch on, is that Governor Nixon has started to change out that board. Explain what's going on there.
Well, you know, this is the sideline to the column that might, in some ways, be even more interesting. Bob Dixon told me, Senator Bob Dixon, that Jay Nixon has been, based on his research, the worst governor in modern history in terms of filling commissions and boards. That at least at one time, there have been 1,500 openings on various boards and commissions that the governor appoints. And in most of them, the governor appoints and then the Senate confirms. And the Public Defender Commission is one of those. So during all this time over the last couple of years that we've been talking about the need for more money for public defenders and for that system to be reformed and fixed so that people have their constitutional right to a jury trial isn't being ignored or trampled upon. There's been at least 2 openings on the Public Service Commission for a long time now, and one of the people that was on the board was serving on an expired term. So now that Governor Nixon is getting criticized by the head of the Public Defender Board, all of a sudden he decides, hey, let's appoint 3 people to the board and act like I'm focused on this public defender issue. And the other thing that he did that's interesting is this is a board that exists to defend the constitutional rights of poor people when they're charged with a crime. He appoints 2 sheriffs to the board, you know, as sort of to poke a stick in the eye of the public defender world, say, I'm going to get you some law and order people here, and they're going to straighten you guys out. And I know, for one, Bob Dixon, a Republican senator from Springfield, was offended, and he hopes that Nixon isn't appointing new commissioners with the attempt to get rid of the head of the public defender system, Michael Barrett.
So why is it that there are all of these posts that are not filled? Is it because Nixon is appointing them and they're not being approved by the overwhelmingly Republican Senate?
In most cases, they're never coming to the Senate. There is probably, and I haven't looked into it that much yet, but there is probably blame between the Republican Senate wanting to block people that Nixon wants to put up and Nixon just being slow to act. But the people that have talked to me about it so far indicate that Governor Nixon's process of getting people up through the Senate confirmation process to even just put names forward. People that have told me they've applied for some of these openings and just wait to even hear from the governor's office tell me that the real slowdown is in the governor's office, that they just have not had a working mechanism to get people in these positions.
Also, with this public defender story, which I find endlessly fascinating, is Governor Nixon, in his statement, basically tried to slap back Michael Barrett, saying, why don't you run your office more efficiently and leave me alone? And I'm paraphrasing, basically.
Yeah, and this is what really, got me wanting to write about it again. There is no denying the fact that the public defender's office is underfunded and has been for a decade. And at least 2 different federal reports have taken a look at it. And because Jay Nixon has increased the budget somewhat, he's trying to hang his hat on that. Well, guess what? The legislature tried to increase it even more, and he withheld those funds. And that's why Michael Barrett went after the governor to say, look, why don't you start taking some of these cases? We have a serious problem here. And the problem is both the legislature and the governor are unwilling to go find the money because this is such a low tax state. There's not enough money for anything. There's not enough money for schools. There's not enough money for roads. There's not enough money for the public defender system. And what Bob Dixon is pointing out is this is a basic constitutional right. There's a lot of people that don't have sympathy for poor people that end up in the court system. They say, well, don't break the law. Well, this is one of our basic constitutional rights, no different than the First Amendment or the Second Amendment. Our right to a jury trial is given to us by the Constitution, and that includes our right to representation if we're too poor to afford ourselves. And Missouri have thousands of people in our criminal justice system who are not offered the constitutional rights guaranteed to them by the U.S. and the state constitution because we aren't funding the public defender system. It's a serious crisis that needs serious people to address, not a governor throwing a temper tantrum in a news release.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Tony Messenger. Clearly, the governor's office has gotten a hold of his phone line and is trying to tap into it, or that's the Russians. We'll let you go. Tony, thanks for checking in. We'll read you at stltoday.com. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks very much.
You got it. Every Tuesday and Thursday here, I love talking to Tony because he makes you think. Whether you agree or disagree with him, he makes you think, and he brings up things that I think are great, are important. Tuesdays and Thursdays here, and then all the time at stltoday.com. 826, Big 5.